So I really got, the most depressing transactions, and I was happy to receive them. I was happy to learn. And so I would get all of the files that nobody wanted in the office, but it was a blessing for me. And I worked hard, I worked late, and I never complained. And then I moved into commercial. My first commercial transaction that I closed was a $152 million land acquisition golf course. You really do have to remain true to what you're trying to accomplish and what it is that you want in your life.
Hello, everyone. My name is Danesha Williams.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Eboni, and we are the founders of
Let's Talk About It.
Hey, guys. Thank you for joining us. I am Danesha.
And I'm Dr. Eboni, and we have an amazing guest today. Like, oh my gosh. We have the Tanya. Yes, we're so excited. And we're going to pass it to her to give her a soft introduction, but we're going to talk all things Tanya and balancing entrepreneurship and being an amazing queen Black woman. Yes. Let's get into it. So without further ado, Tanya, can you tell the people who you are, what you do, and what you bring to the table?
My name is Tanya Hayes, and first and foremost, I am a child of God, a humble servant of the people, a mom to the most amazing son in the entire world, Carter, and also a new dog mommy to Angel Rose, our German Shepherd puppy. And I just so happen to do title insurance. I'm a managing partner of the title and escrow firm.
I love that. So let's just get into it. I mean, we want to talk all things entrepreneurship, balancing life, motherhood. I mean, even just being a Black woman in your field, because it's not many. It's a lot of women in real estate, but you own a title company.
Right. I did. And I started 15 years ago. I was working at Seasons 52. And I went in for a job interview at Fidelity National Title off of Sand Lake Road, and I did not get hired.
Wow.
I was told that I was too loud. And so I was like, okay, well, it's not meant to be. Right. And I went back to hospitality. I get a call frantically a year later that they were desperate to get someone to start right away. So I guess my voice rang in their head a year later. And they called me. The person that they hired in lieu of me really wasn't working out, who just so happened to be a white male who got the position over me. It wasn't because he was more qualified. He used to actually take numerous smoking breaks, and he did not really like to do customer service. And I was super eager. And I just knew as soon as I walked in that I had to make myself an asset. And I was willing to do whatever job that they gave me. And they did. I got all of the worst files, all of the depressing files. And what I mean by that is at the time we were just coming off the recession. So there was a lot of bank-owned properties, people losing their properties through foreclosure, short sales. And then also was handling the refinances, which many of them at the time was including divorces, people cashing out, paying one spouse to get out of off title. So I really got, the most depressing transactions, and I was happy to receive them. I was happy to learn. And so I would get all of the files that nobody wanted in the office, but it was a blessing for me because at that time I was just learning more and more about people, transactions, the industry. And then I moved into commercial. My first commercial transaction that I closed was a $152 million land acquisition golf course out of West Palm Beach. It was a multi-state, multi-site transaction. And of course, nobody wanted to be in commercial. I was always where nobody else wanted to be. And I was happy to be there. It was a great opportunity.
That's what you call placement in position by God.
Yes.
Because some people may say you weren't even qualified.
Correct.
However, God said, what's for you will be for you.
Will always be for you. That is so right. That is absolutely right. And I worked hard. I worked late, and I never complained. That was the biggest thing. Everybody else would be complaining and had all these demands, and I was like, oh, this is nothing.
Right. Hungry. She was hungry for sure.
Yeah, I was hungry for sure. I'm like, this is nothing. I've been through the fire in my life. You know, like this, what is this?
Okay, and I can definitely say the pros and cons of that being thrown into something, or because I've been in that position. I honestly, because of the type of person and the work ethics that I have, I love being just given anything and figure it out because I'm a problem solver. But you learn so much.
You
And
do.
the ones that are really at the top of their game and their expertise had to go through something, build something, grow something, lead something to really, be where they're at. So I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
It's pros and cons. Pros and cons.
it was definitely a lot of pros and cons. Of course, when you were the only minority in an industry that is kind of hidden. Title insurance is not like this forefront, at least it wasn't then.
Yeah.
A very boring, archaic industry that most people don't. I remember when I first started, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna fall asleep. It's so boring. But I'm like, I had to add the flavor there, especially for the closings. But what I will say is one of the cons was I was like their introduction to culture, and it was always I was always in the position of where I had to educate you about diversity or culture. And obviously it was uncomfortable initially, but I just had to learn to just really just not care. I had to stay focused on the mission. I knew I wasn't going to be there that long. I needed to work as hard as I could, learn as much as I could, so that way I could build myself and transfer these skills elsewhere.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's empowerment all the way. I mean, look at it, taking basically an obstacle and turning it into something favorable for you. So with that being said, once you got the experience you needed, right, what made you say, okay, I'm going to open up my own?
So it didn't happen like that initially. I got engaged. I got pregnant with Carter. And I was like, oh my God, I could be working until midnight. And it wasn't just that. I think was working and just being my normal tiny self. And one of my coworkers was like, oh, are you speaking Ebonics? And I was like, no, honey, I'm speaking English. What is that? Okay. What's Ebonics? I've never heard of that. But it wasn't until that point where I was like, man, I can work so hard. I can be invaluable and still not be appreciated or recognized as the professional that I am.
Right.
And I'm the backbone at this point of this office. I'm running circles. And at that time, my manager was like, you can run circles around anybody in this office. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad you said that. And I could.
Mm-hmm.
People that were 10, 15, 20 years my senior in the industry. And I remember when I was pregnant, I was like, I don't even want to be spoken to like that while I'm pregnant. I don't even want my son to think in his own fetal embryo way to even have those words traveling even in my ears, to go down in my body for my son to even breathe that energy, honey, at all. And I was like, it's time to transition on to where, one, I'm comfortable, I'm respected, I'm appreciated. And I was very thankful for all of the information and the training that I received from there. But a lot of it was self-taught. The vast majority of it was self-taught. And just being in an oppressive position, it's like, you can really build something beautiful in impressive environments. And at that time, I moved into builder division at First American, which was great. So I worked on all of the major builder accounts that we know here in Central Florida, even nationally. And at that time, they had a ton of volume. I was doing like 40 plus closings a month.
Wow.
But it was believe it or not, that was a better work-life balance for me at the time. And I'm going to tell you the pivotal moment of when I knew I could do it myself. It wasn't even then. I had moved across the country for my fiance's dream job, which was IT, started booming at that time. Tech was just going insane. He landed his dream job that happened to be in Kansas City.
Wow.
Lived in Kansas City, got a job with the Kansas City title. And, I'm looking at how they do title, and they do title totally different. It's very relaxed, very laid back, great work-life balance. I'm like, God has something more meant for me. Like, this is not my life. I couldn't even sleep at night. Like, there would be times I would be waking up and I'm like, God has like put something on my spirit. And at the time, my relationship, nothing was working.
Wow.
My relationship was not working out. He was under a lot of pressure for his job. I was new mom. I got this man here. I don't even understand myself. I'm trying to be a new mommy and I got to go to work. It was so many things. Nothing was in alignment.
Right.
And the biggest one was my relationship. And I got a call. An attorney wanted to make me a job offer here in Central Florida. And it was like the timing of the call.
Wow.
I said, no, I can't do it. I'm up here. I'm a mom. I'm about to be jumping the broom, honey.
Okay.
I gave the job offer to a good friend of mine. I said, well, call her and offer the job to her. They were like, well, we really want you. I'm like, oh, she's a good option. Gave her the job. Well, things weren't working out. Yeah. So I called them a few months later. I'm like, hey, do you have that position open? Do you have another one? And they were like, yes, we would love to have you. Wow. So before I even moved back to Florida, I had an apartment set up. I had a job where I was making the most money that I had ever made in my career at that point, which was like the best, especially as a new mom. And it wasn't until I started working for this law firm that I saw that the way that they were operating was not, I came from major corporate title. Yeah, structure. Fidelity is like the most corporate that you're going to get besides First American. And he had like this little rinky-dink copier and these rinky-dink computers. And there was like a hole in the wall and I'm like, this is an attorney? What is going on? And it was dark in there. Like the lighting wasn't the best. And I'm like, man, look at the way he's operating. And he was operating like behind the years. Like I actually had to catch him up to speed. I'm like, hey, we don't do that in title anymore. He's like, really? And I got to the point where I started making him more money because he just wasn't up to date about industry standards.
Wow.
And I was bringing him clients. His business tripled. Wow. His business tripled. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I need to start betting on myself.
Yeah.
My friend that I had got hired there left. She got a job opportunity with an up-and-coming title company out of Lake Nona. And they needed someone to come in and kind of give them credibility, i.e. me. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a risk on myself. The attorney that I work for, I called him. He's like, well, Tanya, what do you want? I'm like, I just want to make more money. And he was like, I told him my number and he was like, done. And I couldn't even believe he thought I was worth that much, And I realized that I was downplaying myself the whole time. I'm like, it's time for me to take a chance on myself. And that was the starting point. When that man saw the value in me so much, I didn't even see it in myself, but I worked really hard for him. I had a desk. I would work sometimes overnight. Carter had a bed under my desk. I had toys for Carter there, and I would work overnight. My son was so little, so young, and he just loved the drive in me. Obviously, no other employee here. Yeah. I worked for his company like it was mine. I had such pride and such passion. And I think that's really what he saw. He used to love it. Like, oh my God, look how hard she's working for me,
Wow. So at this point in your career, where were you? Like how old was Carter? And you transitioned from Kansas City to here. Where were you?
Carter was a year and a half.
Wow. Okay.
Carter was a year and a half old when I left him and started for this startup title company. Things just weren't aligning. That title company was ran by a non-credible person, which turned out to be understandable. And even the attorney had warned me. He was like, that guy that runs it, he doesn't have a good record.
Wow.
On multiple records, no good records. Multiple records, but that doesn't mean, and that's no slight to that individual, that doesn't mean people can't redeem themselves. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying it in that capacity, but sometimes the characteristics of that individual stays throughout the years. And at that point, that person's characteristics were still the same. Exactly. They had not transitioned or grown or progressed at that point. And Carter was a year and a half, and I just got really tired of asking people, like, hey, can I go pick up my son? And I was all the way in St. Cloud. Oh. I lived in Lake Nona, Jesus. Working in St. Cloud, driving 45 minutes to an hour there and back every day. Like, the only reason why I'm an entrepreneur right now is solely because of my son.
Wow.
That is it. It's not for money. It is not for clout or anything. I had never imagined myself being an entrepreneur ever in my life. It was because I did not want to ask someone to go pick up my son. I'm a single mom. I need to spend time with my child to properly raise him and rear him into a decent human being. And I just can't do that being 1,000 other places but home
Wow.
there for him. Yeah, that's the only reason why I'm an entrepreneur still. Is really because of
Wow.
my son. I want to leave something behind for him. I want to spend time with him. And I still feel that way.
So
Yeah.
that, and then that creates that work-life balance
Yeah,
that
it
you
did.
were craving to have for your son.
Yes.
So now, okay, you're 15 years in the game now.
Yeah.
You are an entrepreneur, you built your team. So let's talk about that. Let's talk
Yes.
about that dynamic. Like, how has that been, just building your team, you know?
When I first got into business, I did everything wrong. I went into business with my best friend. I went into business. I'm still so compassionate towards people to where it's a detriment to me. Like, I'm so compassionate, I'm so giving, I'm so serving. And really, you have to learn when to draw the line.
Yes.
Because it can come back and really bite you in the butt later. And I have had that. I've had that's happening now, where I've had to just, that was the number one thing that I did wrong, was being just overly compassionate. Like, you're running a business, you're not managing a congregation at a church.
Yes.
And
say
when
for the
you-
people getting in the bite.
yes, running a bit, like, when you have such a servant's heart and you want to give so much to people, like, you always want to give them the benefit of the doubt. No, it's okay, they're going through a hard time, or no, it's okay, no, like, you're just so compassionate. Like, I'm still learning that you have to learn how to draw the line in business,
Yes.
or you'll be out of business.
Yes.
You'll be out of business, you'll be bitter, you'll be resentful, you'll be hurt, and you're like, God, I'm such a good person. Why does this keep happening to me? I have such a good heart. God knows my heart. Even if you want to bring God to it, even Jesus had boundaries that were not to be crossed. And when you allow boundaries to be crossed because you want to be so nice and giving and understanding, it really can be detrimental to your business. And that's the biggest lesson that I had to learn. I don't know about all entrepreneurs. Everybody has their lessons. But when you have a servant's heart, and especially when you come from a background of hospitality, you're always like, yes. You're like, yes to everyone. And almost like no to yourself. Like, everything that you want, where you're going. That has been the biggest lesson that I've had to learn in business, is saying no. Like, no. That's not gonna work.
And I was gonna ask, so did that cost you any friendships?
100%. It's gonna cost you. It's gonna cost you friendships. It's gonna cost you a lot of different things. But the cost of a new life is your old life. The cost of new habits are old habits.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to, at this point, die of my old self to birth something new.
I know that's right.
Come on, Easter.
Yes.
Honestly, you have to, and I'm speaking, but I'm still going through this.
Right.
There's still, I'm like battling. For me, entrepreneurship has been a battle between me, myself, and I.
Yes.
Of undoing all of the things that maybe worked for me then, but they're not working now.
Yep.
And you'll notice when it's not, because your life, and when I say your life, business and personal becomes stagnant.
Yep.
It's just like it's fighting with the. Look, I am a believer, and I'm someone that has experienced it.
Right.
And working as an entrepreneur and then deciding to go back to full-time something, but that's a whole nother conversation in itself. We'll get to that on another episode.
Which, kudos to you.
Thank you.
Kudos to you.
And I had to think about more of my purpose and my passion rather than what I feel is going to make me more money.
Right.
Mhm.
And in return of following my purpose and my passion, I make more money.
Of course.
Way more money
That
than I
alignment.
thought. I was like, oh, you know what, God, I'm choosing my purpose. I'm choosing what makes me happy, and I enjoy pouring into, the young adults and just teaching. That's my passion. And so once I decide, it's God. That divine intuition and timing is everything.
And you've completely blossomed.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I didn't even ask for it. I was just like,
It's just organic.
And I
Yes.
feel it. I feel good, and it created me a sense of peace. But also, it taught me how to, because I'm teaching business, entrepreneurship, HR, things that I got my degree in, but it's allowing me to go back to my business to fix things that I thought was going well, or I noticed the stagnant moments in my business, and I was like, okay, let me handle that, get things better. And it's just full circle. God has
Yeah.
a way
That
of
alignment,
placing
boy.
you, alignment, position to get to a better place.
It takes a lot of self-awareness
It
too.
do.
And like also kind of putting your pride to the side of like, you never want to feel like you're losing your business, right?
Yes.
Something that you built that's your baby. But you really do have to remain true to what you're trying to accomplish and what it is
Yes.
that you want in your life 100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely mine has been being overly compassionate and also holding myself more accountable for the lack of boundaries that I've had. I don't even blame other people. I blame myself. It's like, it's only happening because I'm
you're
allowing
allowing
it.
Yeah.
I can put a stop to it. And it's like, what's so crazy about entrepreneurship is that when you're managing a team of employees or team members and you're managing a team, at least for me, in my personal dating life, I'm like, oh, he's acting up, block. But with team members, I'm like, okay, well, let me consider the full
XYZ,
scenario,
right.
XYZ. I'm so much more compassionate towards, my team. And that's a good thing is within reason.
Yeah.
There's pros and cons. It's really finding out the balance, making sure that your compassion is not at the expense of your company and your time,
Yes.
your paid time that you're paying someone.
I agree.
Yeah, for sure. That's been the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna kind of switch it to you, Danesha, because I know you manage a lot of too.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, to your point, I mean, the boundaries are definitely something that I had to and I'm still working on.
Yeah.
Basically setting the line, some things you just don't allow. Like, for example, I had an employee still in time, and it's like, but why are they still in time? I'm trying to justify it, right? Versus just saying, okay, this is what is in place. This shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
And just, letting them go, whatever. So I get it. Like, I'd be trying to be more compassionate versus, doing what works for the company.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And just what's right too.
Yeah, ultimately.
Yeah. Because, and also when you're the boss or you're the manager, you're always looked at as the villain.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You're always it's looking like, well, Danesha did this, and it's like, well, no, you're working, and I'm paying you to do a job.
Right.
You're stealing from me.
Yeah.
Right.
You're literally stealing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
And I think people have to remember that you have, and that's what I'm a natural born teacher. Even with my students, I have to talk to them and tell them, you're mad at me because I gave you a grade or I didn't give you extra time for this. Let's talk about what you did.
Right.
What were you doing when you had time to study? What were you accountability? I'm big on accountability. Now, if I messed up or I submitted did something wrong with your grade or I didn't look at it, okay, I'm gonna take accountability for that. I'm a big person on lead by example. So I'm gonna show you that I'm gonna take accountability.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize. Now let's talk about what we can do to move forward. And I do that even in my personal relationships because I'm at an age where I don't have time to interrupt my peace. And if that means that I'm not setting boundaries or I'm not communicating effectively or leading by example, then something ain't right.
Right.
Something ain't right.
Self-evaluate,
setting boundaries. Like I'm just too much at peace to let even my own self get in the way. I check myself so much. It's crazy. I be in my head like, oh, hold on, Ebony. Okay, that wasn't right. No, because even Danesha can account to that. I mean, outside of let's talk about it, we are friends,
right?
And I will check myself, or I will
She'll check me
communicate.
too,
like,
and I'm good with that.
You know what I'm saying? In a way where we both can be receptive.
No, but to your point, it's like a common theme here. Ultimately, we have to self-reflect because we're in roles where people look to us, right, for answers. And it's like, if we're not setting the discipline for ourselves, taking accountability, it's like, who are we to ask that for someone else?
Exactly.
I'm gonna ask because
Yes.
I'm paying you.
Right.
Period. Like, there may not be something that I can do or I'm capable of doing, i.e. IT,
Right.
but I still expect it. And on the payroll, I do still expect it.
I want those deliverables by Monday.
There's still the expectation. And the reason why I feel like that is because I've also built my career off of being an employee.
Right.
And I've never saw my manager serve tables at Seasons 52 ever. But the expectation was you're going to go serve a table.
Right.
Wow.
Or if I had to go train someone, my manager's not training them. Tanya is responsible for training them.
Right.
So I think also too is not overextending grace.
Yes.
Not like being
Oh.
so understanding that it just goes
Because
left.
then
Like
people start to play with you.
And then
absolutely,
and then
we
you
can
think,
become
mhm,
too understanding.
too understanding.
Like
Then you're
where it just
battling
doesn't
with
make
yourself.
sense.
I
Yeah.
don't got time to be battling with myself. No. On
No.
account of you. No.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we talked about a lot today, but I want you, I mean, just
Mhm.
amazing entrepreneur, such a great personality,
Yes,
bubbly,
Thank you.
big, energetic personality. If you ever spend time with Tanya outside of these
She's spicy.
cameras, yes, but I
Spicy,
call it
spicy.
balance. I love your personality,
Yeah.
and we're so happy that you came today. But can you just leave the people with some tips that can just help them in balancing entrepreneurship, being a Black woman, being a mother,
Right.
and just being a leader in your industry?
So on balance,
Wait, pause. Sorry, and she's a part of so many great things, like the organization.
I-
Let's talk about
Yeah, like
let's talk about
you know,
all
so
of
many
that.
accolades. How do you navigate that all?
I think it's just about setting what the priorities are. My priority is always my son.
Mhm.
So if anything is taking me away from my son too much and is gearing me too much left from being a present mom.
Right.
And sometimes when you can overextend yourself, I know I've overextended myself on board positions, on every position,
Yeah.
especially when you're passionate, you're
Right.
naturally going to just pour in
Everything to
everything
it.
that you have. You're like, oh my God, we could do this. Let's do this. Let's do that.
Yes.
And I just really get super excited really quick. But I always go back to my number one purpose right now is to be a good mom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Am I being a present mom? Am I having a long day and I'm snapping at my kid for something that's doesn't deserve to be snapped at?
Right.
Or am I reflecting emotional regulation? You know what I mean? Am I being emotionally regulated myself? So I think it's just a constant check within myself. Yes, I have served, and I really enjoy serving. I enjoy nonprofit work. That is truly deeply where my heart is for a number of reasons. Like you said, that's a whole nother segment.
Yes.
But I always have to just kind of go back, like, okay, Tanya, like, is it time for your nail appointment? Like, is it time for your pedicure? Like, girl, like, get yourself back. Like,
Self-care.
self-care.
Yes.
Like, and I saw your video, like, oh my God, my form of self-care is getting your hair done. Like, there is something that just does something to my spirit. When I get a manicure and a pedicure, even like I went for a facial, I'm like, just breathe life into me.
How was that facial that you recently got?
Girl, I used to get facials all the time, and I'm like, I'm back now.
Right. That
Amazing.
our back is amazing.
Like,
Oh my
I can't
gosh.
like lose myself in anything,
Yes.
including motherhood.
Come on.
Including motherhood. But I always take a look at like my mom, how am I, not my mom, but how am I being as a mother and how I'm taking care of myself and showing up first and foremost. And, do I get to have a quiet time? Am I able to talk to God? And, and don't hold me to it if y'all see me talking any kind of way or acting any kind of way. But I do look for those quiet moments. Like, am I having enough quiet moments just where I can be at peace and do nothing? And if I don't, that's when I start pivoting. That's really it.
I love that.
Whether it's work or, if someone is stressing me out or causing me to kind of go back and forth, too much with myself, then it's time for me to pivot.
I love that.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Tanya.
Mhm.
So, what does that look like from a dating perspective? Like, you have a lot on your plate.
I
You know your focus, right? Do you feel like that will interfere?
Still
with dating?
still struggling. It does interfere with dating. It interferes because,
Go ahead.
there's a lot of amazing men out here, but I do not have the time for someone to be dealing with someone who's still trying to figure themselves out.
Yes.
So there's a lot of people still trying to figure out who they are and whose they are. And I cannot deal with a man that just does not have vision. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have vision for their lives.
I love that.
Like, I need someone with vision, and I need someone who knows what they want and what they're looking for, and that's an alignment. And yes, I have put myself out there, but a lot of times it's like, I'm so weird. I'm so socially dating awkward. Like, if a man just does something that I don't like I think this man had dirty nails one time, and I'm like,
But no, those are things you
No.
have to take in consideration.
Immediately no,
No,
it's
y'all
immediately
laugh.
stop.
Thank you, hygiene. Because if your nails are dirty, that means you didn't pay attention enough to yourself, your hygiene, which can later be a problem.
That's a red flag off the bat.
But I don't want anybody to hold that to my dating standards because I have dated some embarrassing I do not want to talk about. We're gonna put that. We're gonna wrap that up in a body bag and zip that up and burn it forever, honey. A non-negotiable is a man without vision. This is a non-negotiable. A man who you have to be kind. You have to be kind-hearted, not a pushover, but you do have to be a genuinely kind person. I think taking the time to choose your words and how you address people speaks to a level of consideration versus someone's like, oh, I'm just blunt and I just blurt anything out. No, I don't like that. I don't want to be treated any kind of way. I remember one time I was dating this guy and I was like, listen, I'm fragile. And he was like, yeah, I need a strong woman. And I'm like, I'm not strong. I'm very fragile. I want to be treated with kindness and care. You're looking for a ride or die. And I'm a ride or live. I don't know. You know? I need a man with vision, who's kind, who has a relationship with God that's not, based off of theatrics or presentation or facade.
I love that. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be anything big or loud. It can just be quiet. That's it.
So do you think he has to have the same, make the same amount of money as you? What does that look like?
No, I don't think so. Okay. I'm not going to put anybody in a financial box. I don't know what people's finances are. Like, especially dealing with closings on my end, we don't know anybody's financial situation. Anybody can pretend.
Yeah.
I just think that I do look for transparency.
Yeah.
You have to have vision and you have to be on that path there. And, don't be relying on me to put your vision together. I'm happy to support it and to play my role. But no, finances is not like a big thing for me, and it has never really been a big problem ever. I would say that's actually been the least of it. It's really just been more of a person's character. When they have character, the rest falls in line.
And that's what I was about to say. I'm saying, let's not get it twisted and say, oh no, you can be broken, date me. No, you have to.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not just the money, but money allows certain things, access, certain the way you live, way of life, comfortability. And so if you want to go and travel, say, hey honey, you want to go to Dominican Republic tomorrow or in 2 weeks, do you have access to do that? Because that's something I enjoy to do. Not saying that Tanya loves to do that, but I'm saying that allows certain things. You don't have to be a billionaire or millionaire, but you have to be able to live comfortably. And we have to align.
I've dated men with a lot of money.
How was that experience for you?
I've dated more than one with a lot of money and a lot of access. I can't put them in the same. No, it hasn't been that many. I can't put them in the same box. Someone with a ton of money is not that different from someone that's does not have a ton of money. Right. There's not a whole lot of difference. Maybe in between would be best.
Right, and
a good balance. Yeah,
right.
a good
why
balance.
I say, let's not get it twisted and say money is everything you need. No, because there's so much that comes with the person that you need over just finances. Okay, so we have talked about a lot, and we just thank Tanya for coming out to share all these tidbits and everything with us. But we want her to leave you all with something that's going to take you away and give you some type of hope. Even if you're struggling with entrepreneurship, balancing mom life, all of that great dating. I mean, all of that great stuff. So Tanya, leave the people with something they want to hear.
Okay, great. I think that very first thing is to listen to yourself. I cannot stress this enough. Listen to yourself. Listen to the voice inside. Listen when you're dating. Listen in business. You always know the right way, the direction that you should go. And if you don't know the answer, ask ChatGPT. No, I'm just kidding.
No, she's not. She's telling the truth.
I'm just kidding. Just take a moment to pause, meditate, pray, just stay still and be still, and the answer will come. It will come. So if you're not sure, it will come. In business, I would say if you could get a mentor, that's going to speed track your way, because I kind of indirectly got a mentor in the past couple months. And that has already catapulted me in a way that I really needed 8 years ago when I started my business.
I
But
love that.
trust your gut, trust your inner voice. You know that what you need to do, nobody else knows. Nobody else knows what you need to do. You can get advice from all over the place. Any advice you want to hear, if you want to hear yes on a topic, you can find it on TikTok or Google or Instagram. If you want to hear no on a topic, you can go search all social media platforms, and there's always going to be someone to argue that maybe what you want to hear more, but you really need to listen to yourself and follow your gut.
I love that.
So thank you, Tanya. That was beautiful.
Thank you for having me.
So once again, thank you all for joining us. Follow all our social media platforms at Let's Talk About It, YouTube, Instagram, etc. And until next time.
Let down your hair.
Tune in for the latest conversations.
Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.